Bruce, you must have something really good too.
Of course I do. It's Bruce Danielson, and I guess I'm here to entertain you too.
Welcome to the South Veterans Parkway Kickoff. Thank you for taking the time today to listen in on our conversation. And we look so forward to seeing you in person later this year after COVID-19 settles down. I'm Shannon Austin, and I'm with the Sioux Falls Public Works Department. And I'm joined today with Steve Hoff from HDR Engineering, who's part of our local design team. Steve, welcome.
Thank you.
And also Mark Leiferman from the South Dakota Department of Transportation. Welcome, Mark.
Yes, thank you, Shannon.
So completing this project has been a long time in the making. How and when did consideration of this corridor begin with the city of Sioux Falls?
Well, Steve, it begins back in the 90s. Sioux Falls and the Department of Transportation are part of the Sioux Falls Metropolitan Planning Organization, or the MPO. And the MPO is comprised of technical officials, citizens, and elected officials from Sioux Falls, from the Department of Transportation, from Federal Highway, from Lincoln and Minnehaha County, and then from Brandon and Harrisburg and T and Crooks and Hartford. And so we all make up this MPO. And in 1993, the Transportation Long Range Plan identified a need for a corridor to go around the city versus going right through the middle of the city and causing a lot of congestion. And so we started on a corridor study with basically three main goals to try to accomplish. Look at the transportation needs for the next 20 to 25 years in the Sioux Falls region. Identify where economic and residential growth can happen along this corridor and along the regional area, and then try to lessen the congestion as much as possible that goes through the middle of the city. And so we determined from this corridor study, we did not need an additional Interstate 229. I mean, Interstate 229 is a great complement to the community, but we needed a regional arterial street network. Now, what is that? Well, that is not an interstate, but it is a series of an arterial corridor that basically goes around the city and has a little bit of higher speed limit. So it's anywhere from that 50 to 55 miles per hour. And it does have limited access. And so the access points are at the mile intervals. And then in commercial areas, it does go down to the half-mile intervals, like by Dolly Farm Village. And it provides multimodal connection. So it does have that side path along the adjacent corridor to not only provide for vehicles, but to also allow for bike and pedestrians. So that was the main goal from that 1995 study.
So Shannon, when we got involved, or when I got involved with the project, and since then, we've heard comments or questions of why is the alignment where it is at? So I guess my question to you is, why doesn't it follow the section line like Highway 106 from I-29, or why is it cross-country, as you will?
Yeah, so Steve, that's really been a question that we've heard a lot from people that are now new to the corridor. And after 1995, when we identified a bandwidth of an area that we were going to study, we looked at all kinds of different alignments. We looked at 6 Mile Road, we looked at extending Highway 11 down to Highway 106 and then over to Interstate 29. And we looked at a little diagonal, a longer diagonal, and then, I mean, there was just a lot of different options that we looked at, and we took those alternatives through that environmental process and in our traffic modeling. And it was determined that if we built this corridor for the region, we wanted it to be able to be in Sioux Falls' growth area. That was one of the main reasons. When we considered Highway 106, there was already so much development that was adjacent to 106 that we would have to accommodate all of those access points. And for us, we wanted to make sure that we had a fresh corridor so we could limit that access so we could meet the purpose and need of the original corridor. So we continue to study, and refine going cross corridor, cross country, as you mentioned. And in 2003, we settled on an alignment and had an approved environmental document that the Sioux Falls MPO approved, and the Department of Transportation, as well as Federal Highway Administration approved the alignment. And so that happened in 2003. And so that alignment then essentially laid the groundwork and the framework for us planning with developers in the southern portions of Sioux Falls as well as the northern portion of Sioux Falls. So then developers could see that corridor and know, okay, well, here's the corridor. I have land adjacent to it. How am I going to develop my land adjacent to the corridor, and what kind of land uses am I going to be able to put adjacent to the corridor? So it's really been an interesting process, because when you look at when the alignment was approved in 2003, the majority of that southern portion was all farms and fields. And you look at it now, and there's a lot of rooftops that are now adjacent to the corridor. And, that have been planned adjacent to the corridor, but it looks really different than what it did, years ago. And in order for us to, plan and project for that growth, we needed to make sure that we had limited access to accommodate that, those 30,000 cars that we will have in 25 years.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's just been amazing is the coordination and the cooperation with the development side, the developers and the city. And you just look at the map between, or the GIS map between Minnesota and Cliff, and how they platted the corridor out, and will make it a lot easier for us to move forward as we go forward with this project.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
So Mark, Shannon discussed the city's role and her background with the project. So what is the DOT's role on this project, and how are you involved?
Yes, Steve, I'll explain my role. First of all, I want to introduce myself as Mark Leiferman. I'm the program manager in the project development office for the South Dakota Department of Transportation. My role for the South Veterans Parkway is taken on the department's duties of project manager for the design work order, of which you're aware, HDR Engineering and various state sub-consultants will be performing multiple tasks to deliver 4 projects, each approximately 2 miles in length. The South Dakota DOT will be an active partner with the City of Sioux Falls and Federal Highway Administration. It will include communication and coordination with many stakeholders, such as, but not limited to, Lincoln County, landowners, developers, and utility companies along the corridor, as well as the general traveling public. The South Veterans Parkway corridor, which is about 8.5 miles in length, it begins at on the west end at the I-29 exit 71 exit at T, and proceeds easterly and northerly to the intersection of South Dakota 11 and 57th Streets. The corridor is estimated at $176 million, which is both federally and state funded. The City of Sioux Falls will fund each of the arterial streets connecting to South Veterans Parkway, which is estimated for all those arterial streets at $33 million. Combining the two, the total cost for the corridor and the arterials is $209 million. And this does include all preliminary and construction engineering, the right-of-way acquisition, utility relocations, and construction.
Thank you, Mark. So Shannon, Mark kind of segued from you're talking about the history of the project and started talking about some of what's coming up. So what can people expect in the coming months on this project?
Well, we're going to be busy. That's all I know in the next 3 to 5 months. What we do have an approved 2003 environmental assessment, and that environmental assessment has to be updated or reevaluated. And so what we will do is basically take a look at, the growth of the city. We'll update the traffic analysis. We will look at additional, wetlands and the impacts to endangered species. On the north segment, Steve, we had the northern long-eared bat, we had the line snake, we had the Topeka shiner. Those are all things that we have to consider as impacted or not impacted during the environmental process. Now on this south leg, we don't anticipate that we're going to have any snakes, at least we don't think so. But we certainly are going to have some impacts to wetlands that we'll have to take a look at. One of the other things that we'll update is our noise analysis. We had completed a noise study in 2003, and a lot of the land, was farmlands. And so in the areas that we do have houses now, we'll have to make sure we update that noise analysis. On the northern segment, and the northern segment is just a wonderful example for those that are wondering what our corridor is going to look like. We're going to have 6 lanes, 3 lanes in each direction. We'll have traffic signals at each one of the mile intersections, along with that side path. But on that northern segment, you can see where the corridor is right adjacent to single family homes, and it's complemented by even a little bit of a berm to help dampen some of that wheel noise. And those are certainly options that we will explore on this southern segment. So all of that information has to be updated, and then of course our public involvement process will certainly be a very important task for us to work through the next few years. There's just so much information, and from a citizen standpoint, Steve, where can they find all of this information at?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, there is going to be a lot of information, a lot of previous information, and a lot of information as we go forward. And where the best place to locate or to find that information would be the website, which is southveteransparkway.com. All spelled out, no spaces with all of that. And our public information group that developed a project website, and this will be maintained with up-to-date information, including studies that have been completed, current activities, and even upcoming events, which includes any future public meetings. And Mark, I mentioned the project schedule. What is the anticipated schedule of the construction?
Yes, Steve. The schedule for the 4 projects on the South Veterans Parkway, the first segment will include the section from Western Avenue to Cliff Avenue, and we're anticipating that construction is going to start in 2023. The remaining projects, the next one would be from I-29 to Western Avenue, with anticipated construction to start in 2024. Cliff Avenue to Sycamore Avenue in 2025. And completing the corridor will be Sycamore Avenue to 57th Street in 2026. It should be noted that we're just starting the design phase, so we're not exactly sure if these projects will take 1 or 2 years to construct. During the construction, the City of Sioux Falls will perform the construction administration with oversight by the DOT. I do also want to note, as per agreement between the state and the city, after construction of each of the 4 segments on South Veterans Parkway, the City of Sioux Falls will be accepting all jurisdiction and control over that segment of South Veterans Parkway encompassed by the project that is being completed.
Thanks, Mark. So Shannon, from the city's view, we've talked about the history, we've talked about the project itself, we've talked about what's coming up on the design and construction. What are you most excited about on this project?
Well, Steve and Mark, there are so many things to be excited about on Veterans Parkway. It is really tough to pick just one. But for me, as the city has continued to grow that 1% to 2% every year, and has transformed really from a small town into a really strong and vibrant community, the city has so much to offer for the residents and the visitors who travel to our city, that this corridor is going to be such an important and critical piece of infrastructure for the entire city. And as we've continued to push to the north, because that was kind of our first focus for Veterans Parkway, was to get up to Interstate 90, working through each mile and designing and acquiring the right of way and constructing. And then as soon as it opens, there's anticipation of, I'm going to drive on Veterans Parkway. And now this last project that has finally opened in December of 2020, and we got to drive up to Interstate 90. And within a couple of days, we had 5,000 cars traveling on the corridor. It's really exciting because the idea that we had, that the MPO had and the region had back in 1993, it came to reality. And it's a great project that is supported by the citizens, because they're using the corridor today. And so I'm excited that we're half done, and we still got halfway, the south half to go to get over to Interstate 29, and we got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, we do. It's exciting, like you had said. Finally, where can people go to get information and submit their question?
There are so many opportunities for people to get information. As you had mentioned, the southveteransparkway.com, we can't give you that address enough. It's so important for them to check out that project website. The City of Sioux Falls and the Department of Transportation do have Veterans Parkway on their websites that will have a direct link into or to South Veterans Parkway. You know, we do Sioux Falls and the DOT do tweets, and we do Facebook Live meetings. You know, a lot of our meetings, when we do finally go back to in-person meetings, we will have the Facebook meetings and taped. That'll put those on our website, so you'll be able, or on the project website, to be able to watch those if you can't make it in person. You can always call each, you know, you or me or Mark and talk to the project team. There's just so many opportunities for the public to get involved, and we want a good project, and the good project has public involvement. So we are so excited to begin this, you know, next journey and next phase of South Veterans Parkway. And we really appreciate you at home watching this conversation, and we look forward to seeing you in person. Thanks.
Thank you.